everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 7 of To Be Hero X, and episode 5 and 6 have been a ride, haven't they? We've gotten to know Yang Cheng, we've gotten to know Xin Chao, we've gotten to see them grow closer, and with this last episode, we just saw Xin Chao shot in the face, so that's a thing. I want to dive into a few comments before we get started. Unfortunately, the moderator, Be Happy, I felt so bad for them. They are my moderator, and they are almost finished with the series. But they told me today, they were like, I think one of my theories just got confirmed by the comments, and they're like, spoilers! So there were a lot of y'all with episodes 5 and 6 that were spoiling. So I didn't get to read your comments because you were talking about hints or clues of things to come, or telling me about if it was, hyped up or if it was terrible. Like, my rule of thumb is, 1, if it's something I'm going to find out in the series later on, you don't have to tell me. If it's something that I'm going to figure out in the discussions, wait to see if I figure it out. I'm a smart girl. I promise I might catch on. If not by the end, then you can tell me. But if it's going to be a potential spoiler, I don't want to know it. And usually people tell me like, I hate this arc, or oh my God, this arc is the hypest thing ever. I don't usually want to know that just because I am a blind reactor. Blind, B-L-I-N-D. I want to go in with no preconceived notions of what's to come. So if that helps you, whatever. Now, if you're making comments and you have no intent on me ever reading it, that's fine. You can make those comments and just know if you're expecting me to comment back and read your comment and respond, there just can't be any spoilers. But I know so many patrons and so many YouTubers that have left comments in my videos that have been just talking about the episodes themselves without spoilers, that I love talking about those and commenting. And some of the comments I'm about to talk to you all about do just that. So thank you, Be Happy, for moderating and going through all of those comments. I appreciate it. I'm sorry we had so many spoilers last week. People. So anyway, that said, there were some really fun comments that I'm really excited to get to. One is by Daewoo3YY for episode 5 that said, Sheng Chao's I'm here for you, Yang Cheng. Sounds a lot like Rex. It's you that I want, nice. And I'm like, yeah, I had watched episode 6 at the point that I had read episode 5's comment, so the moderators approved this one, but I was like, yeah, so we see how that goes. I do see, what's interesting is, as Daewoo has pointed out, along with several others in the comments, I said this last episode, Sheng Chao does look a lot like Nice, and I think it's interesting that he looks like Nice, but has Rex storyline. So that's interesting. They said, jokes aside, I wanted to talk about this. Jokes aside, the old Wellll comes off as such a fraud to me, giving empty speeches to press while there's still little kids like Pomelo out there who need a hero. Do your job, Wellll. It's so often the commoners are saving people, not these commercial hero idols. No wonder Treeman jumps at the idea to market Lin Ling as the commoner. Yeah, I you know what? This was a comment for episode 5, so I will give it a little credit, because I feel like in episode 6 we did get to kind of, even though we can't see the OG Well's face and connect with him that way, I do feel like they did some lingering shots and things to point out that I think the old Well is not happy with how things are, and they don't like the way that they've become. But when you're at the top, it's kind of hard to step away, and it's hard to admit that you're not great anymore and you're not doing the job the way it should be done anymore. And I'm not going to get into detail about my personal life, but at work this last month, I've had a scenario come up where something very similar to the old Well's situation, like no superheroes or anything, but a person that I work with has been kind of in a similar position as the old Well, and watching that happen in real time while experiencing this episode is like crazy. So I can kind of relate to Well. I kind of know where he's coming from. The problem is that Well has a job to do and they're not doing it. They've kind of sold out, and I think they know they've sold out, but they don't want to give up the mantle because it's all they know. So it's going to be interesting to see where that shifts to now that Yang Cheng has been gaining all this notoriety as the new Wellll. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Maybe we'll find out in this episode. Tiny Truck, as well as Be Happy, pointed out that the drinking age in China is 18. So our boys are most definitely old enough to drink. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know the drinking age of all countries. I know in Europe it's usually like 16 or 18, depending on where you are. In the US, it's 21 because we can't be held responsible for things. So, you know, it is what it is. But I do find that interesting. So, you know, and half the time when I say jokes on the channel and the reactions and stuff, it's a joke. But anyway, Alexander Q is our last comment, and they, for episode 6, said, the way people latch on to Yang Cheng as Easel is so interesting. Of course, there's the idea that a younger generation just connects more with the hero who is more in tune with their own interests. But I think the fact that he reveals his identity to everyone while the original soul does not is a very interesting factor. People, generally speaking, will trust someone that they see, know, and understand more than an unknown. And original Easel has become an unknown by never showing what's under the mask. People have to wonder about it, and I'm sure there are tons of conspiracy theories about it as well. I also think that, and I told them in their reply, that I think a big part of it is that you have Yang Cheng out here at meet and greets, like out here in the public, like giving things to fans, shaking their hands, like creating that connection with the people that give him their trust value. Whereas you have the old Easel who's just behind a podium doing a press conference, but there's no one-on-one. It's just to an audience. It feels very detached. And once it starts to feel detached like that, then people start to maybe feel disconnected. So yeah, it's really fascinating in terms of like just evaluating people's psychology and using superheroes to kind of gauge that. That's really neat. So I'm all about it. But thank you all so much for your comments. Now, I am really excited to read all of your comments, so please keep them coming. Hopefully I'll be able to read them. But anyway, thank you so much. I have been dying to dive into this episode. I had to go. I recorded a Steins Gates episode for this week, and then I went and got my hair cut. So I'll be wearing the same shirt, just with different hair in those 2 videos. So that'll be fun. But anyway, I'm so excited. We still are not watching the OP or ED, so just bear with me on that. But we are going to get started with episode 7 of TBHX. I feel like it's a 3-parter, so might as well see what's next. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. When I watch Jujutsu Kaisen, the phrase I've learned is that a lot of people will say Gege Akutami is the author of Jujutsu Kaisen, and when something crazy happens, and you're like, Gege, when I find you! And from watching all of Link Click, caught up to Bride Arc, and then watching this, I'm like, Lin Hao Lin, when I find you! Oh, okay. Well, yes. We have a lot to talk about, and you get answers, but then many questions. I'm like the little monkey meme that I'm like, I have answers, but I have many questions. And I will say, I have some critiques, but I know how YouTube is. I know how y'all are. You're like, you don't want to hear my critiques until, you know, we don't want to spoil the fun. So I will save those for the very end. I will probably maybe talk a little teensy bit about it throughout, but I will leave them for the very end so that if you don't want to hear me critique, then you don't have to. But I'm going to leave my critiques for the very end. And then maybe as we discuss, my critiques will go away. So we'll see. But yeah, what an episode. Oh my God. I do love that this was a 3-parter. I like that we set up Lin Ling as well as Nice and Moon in the first 4 episodes. And we also had Enlighter's like villain origin story happen at the same time. And then we also had Rek be involved as well, and Firm Man. So we got like a few little heroes, and we got to know about Magic Shadow, which Magic Shadow is interesting. We'll see where that goes. But Magic Shadow now is like, wait, what? So we're gonna just save that for now. Keep that in the back burner. But we've met this cast of characters, and we've also met the president of the commission. For some reason, in my head, in my wee brain, I have told myself in my brain that the president of the commission has his own agency, and I don't think that's correct, but my brain wants to go there, and I think it's because Miss J has her own agency. Uncle Rock has his own agency, as it comes to find out, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, what the fudge? So, curiouser and curiouser. I have things I want to talk about and discuss, ideas, theories, things that we might learn as we go. But yeah, we need to talk about this. So let's go ahead and get the screenshots pulled up. My dog is probably going to want me to play with him as I'm talking to you. I did quite ignore him during the reaction, and he was very good, so he deserves his treats. But we start out at the eulogy for Xin Chao. I still can't believe Xin Chao's dead. What a red herring. What a red, potentially doomed Yowie Wisely. How Lynn giving us all the doomed Yowie. Why? But you know what? I can't get mad at him because he's an equal opportunist. Every relationship has struggled or died in this series so far. So I'm like, if Isol can't be happy with Jia Qing, then Lin Ling can't be happy with Moon. I see how it is. I don't know, though. We're going to talk about that. And I'm urging you in the comments, please do not spoil, or if you are going to talk spoilers, put a thing in there that says, spoiler warning, don't read Romania, and then just list your thoughts for the rest of YouTube and Patreon out of that, right? So, okay, we're going to talk about the old Prez Chao, because, right, isn't it, no, Shang, yeah, Prez Shang, I'm getting my surnames and my first names mixed up, so President Shang, Prez Shang, we're going to get him up here and his eulogy, because he said a couple things that I was like, oh, that's projecting and also very interesting. So he talks about, we spend our lives striving towards a just world, but fate always tips the scales one way or the other. So, I mean, I don't want to deter from the fact that I feel sorry for the president, because his literal son has died. Like, his son has been shot and killed, and that is heartbreaking. Also, with this photograph, he looks a lot like Nice. Now, I want to keep in mind with the timeline, because I think the timeline is relatively important here. So this is taking place, if I'm correct, this was the 34th, this was 7 years ago. So we need to mark that. This was 7 years ago. So this was at the 34th Hero Commission, or Commission for, it's the 34th anniversary of Isol, but it was the 36th of the commission. So now that establishes that it was 5 years ago, because it's the 41st now. So this was all 5 years ago, right? And we established, let's take that little timeline over here to here and say that 3 years ago, which would be 2 years later, that's when we found the guy that now, I mean, if we're going to be honest, the guy that looks like Sheng Chao, and he is Nice. And we started that. So do I think that President Shang and Miss J are kind of like in cahoots creating the Nice persona? Yeah, I kind of do. So I want to talk about that. So we have the Nice persona, who Miss J had wanted to become in the top 10, if not the number 1 hero, to take the spot, I believe it's been a couple weeks, to take the spot of Isol, who is one of the top heroes as well, or surpass Isol, right? I don't remember exactly which spot Isol was in. I thought Isol was like 3 or 7, one of those. I don't think Isol was the top, but maybe they are now. But to take that, and there's going to be a tournament to assume that this is, and it also said, what did it say, like the 10th annual tournament or something? So this tournament had been going on before all of this went down, maybe, I think. So if I'm being correct about that from prior episodes of what we've learned from previous episodes. So then we also, though, have Lin Ling, who became the commoner, and for all intents and purposes, the Nice persona is, as far as we know, is dead. Now, with that being said, I think that that's interesting because you had the death of Nice and the creation of Wellll, and then in this episode, it sort of reverses it, where we have the death of Yang Cheng, essentially, and the creation of Wellll. For one way or another. We'll talk about that when we get to it, because I want to look closely at some things, because I'm still not convinced. But I do like the idea that episodes 1 through 4 talk about the, episodes 1 through 4, if we're talking about it, are about Wellll coming to terms with being a hero, and about the idea of him accepting himself and kind of accepting himself and gaining his own identity, whereas these last 3 episodes have been about the deconstruction of someone's identity, which is essentially Yang Cheng, from being his own individual persona to now he's Wellll. And it's like, oh, we're going to talk about it. So anyway, President Shang's whole deal here is talking about how we strive for a just world, but our enemy is literally fate. Can't fight fate. Fate doesn't care about your wishes or anything like that. And now it has played a joke on my son. There is some vitriol. There is some bitterness. There is some malice in the seeping beneath the words that the president says at his son's eulogy. And I don't blame him, because I don't blame him. He's like, my son died for no reason. For no reason. And, meanwhile, you have Yang Cheng, who we're going to put him down here in the blue. We have Yang Cheng, for example, he is upset, and he feels like he is let down his friend. He's let down Sean Chang, and he also feels powerless, which is understandable. He's like, he was able, not only was his friend creating all of these devices and things for him, but also he was helping to promote him as a hero, and he couldn't save him. And in the moment where Sheng Chao needed him the most, Yang Cheng couldn't save him. And that's a problem, at least for him. But that this has played a joke on my son. Oof. You know what? I mean, here's the thing. Does this man with his I can't trust you soul patch, does he give vibes of I can't trust this man at all? Well, yes. But do I feel bad for him in this moment for losing his son? Well, yes. Do I think that he has become a healthier person in the 5 years since losing his son? I don't know. But I don't trust him. But I do feel bad for him. I genuinely think he did not, or now that we know about the uncle, which when we get to that, I'll talk about it. But now that we know that the uncle was behind it all, I definitely feel like he is blindsided. This man did not see his son's death at all. In his mind, his son was creating a new agency and was up and coming. He was bright. He was smart. I mean, does this man give me a little bit of the Osborn vibes from Spider-Man? Well, yes, as well. But at the same time, I really feel for him, and I genuinely think he is distraught as a parent. A joke of only tears, cries, and sorrows. Yeah, you can definitely tell he is upset. He is very sad that his son has died. And he, as any parent would be, losing their child so suddenly, I cannot imagine what this man is going through, because that would be absolutely awful. And then we cut back to Yang Cheng. I'm glad we got this cut back. I'm glad we got the cut back to see the aftermath of him getting shot and how just absolutely horrified and sad that Yang Cheng is, like, holding Sheng Chao. And can we just talk about Jia Qing in this episode? I felt so bad for her. I think she's like one of the biggest losers of this episode. And not loser as in uncool, lame. Losers as in this girl lost a lot in this episode. She lost her friend. She lost her other friend in the process. And she's left alone. The only thing is we didn't see Pomelo, which this episode was way too heavy for Pomelo. This episode was so heavy. Pomelo would not have he would not have fared well in this episode, so it's probably good that we didn't have him in this. Although I do want to say, that makes me curious to see if that was 5 years ago, and Pomelo was what, 8 or 9? So he'd be like 14 or 15 in the current timeline. I will be very curious to see if we see Pomelo in the future. The show almost conveniently like doesn't have him appear at all. And a lot of times when shows do that with a character that had a big focus in a prior episode, they're saving them in the wings. Lee Howlin has got him up his sleeve that he's going to chuck him out there at some point. So maybe we'll see Pomelo again. Although I don't know if I want to see Pomelo again because, again, Lee Howlin is terrifying with what he does with characters. But yeah, I feel really bad. Also, for the record, her funeral outfit, amazing. The suit dress with the bow tie, she looks incredible. She looks so good. I mean, fashion statement at a funeral, what else could you want? If this is what the world deems fair, I refuse to accept it. And then they cut to Yang Cheng. So the idea of not accepting fate. And who better to hear that about not accepting fate than Yang Cheng, who his whole life has been fighting against fate. Like, this is the cards that I've been dealt with, but I'm not going to take that standing. No, I'm going to do this or that. So I think that only fueled. He's like, I will grasp fate by its throat and tell it this. Since the scales have already tipped, no one shall walk away from this unscathed until this matter is settled. So essentially, it's like, you know, you've opened Pandora's box. Now that the scales are tipped, there is going to have to be justice for this action. And again, there was some bitterness in that dad's words, but you get it. You get why he would say that. Like, if I were him, I'd want to know who my son's killers were, and I'd want to put them to justice because it was senseless. I really like this shot on the bench. Like, as everybody's walking away, I really like this shot of the two of them. But there's so much in terms of body language that is so evident. Like, for example, the space between them. I want to talk about critiques, but I don't want to talk about critiques. Okay, I'll save the big ones for the end. But one thing that really made me sad is that here's Jia Qing. This woman, she loved Shang Chao. Maybe not romantically. I don't personally think she was going to say yes to dating him. We've talked about it in episode 5 and episode 6. I don't think she was going to actually date him, but I think she was waiting on Yang Cheng to get the grip and figure it out. But I do think she cared about Shang Chao. I think they were friends. I think she cared for him just like Yang Cheng cared for him. And so here's this woman that Yang Cheng, you're supposed to have a crush on. She's right in front of you, grieving just like you are, and he does not comfort her at all. He is so obsessed in his mind with things being his fault. And again, I understand why he thinks that way. He believes things are his fault. He believes that he's the one responsible. He needs to take action. He needs to take credit for it. He needs to do something about it. But like my dude, he gets so tunnel visioned in this episode. He's so narrow-sighted, so tunnel visioned. And we understand why, as the audience. We can all critically think. We all get it. But I'm like, this girl's right in front of you, needing comfort. And you know, what's interesting is this monkey's paw, right? It's a monkey's paw. He has been waiting in episodes 5 and 6. He's been waiting to have this opportunity to talk with her one-on-one when Shang Chao has not been around. Well, now the monkey paw has happened and he has the opportunity, and it's not going to do it. It's Shakespearean tragedy. This is like Oedipus levels of tragedy. This is Icarus levels of tragedy, where you have the opportunity right in front of you and he doesn't take it because he's so obsessed with this one thing. And you just want to sit there and go, what are you doing? But it makes sense why he's doing it. He is hell-bent on revenge because he feels responsible. And when she looks over, I really liked, there were two things with his body language that I really liked the episode did. One was showing him like Yang Cheng has looked very, like, innocent, nervous, skittish, maybe even unsure of himself. Not in this episode. This man is hell-bent on revenge, and the conviction and resolution is there. The other thing I really like is that when they show his leg here in a hot second, the leg that they show is just sitting there like, he's impatient. Which goes kind of with the Esol thing. He's impatient, he's ready to move, he's ready to get things done. But, like, the space in between them, I'm like, you know, this girl's suffering too. You can't say a few words to, like, make her feel better? Really? Nope. Apparently he cannot. So he goes off to the president and says that he's sorry. And honestly, he's like, what are you still doing here? Like, and again, this is a man, this is a father grieving, so we have to take that into account. This is a father grieving, and this is the person that was there when his son died. And, you know, from his perspective, I can see why he would be very angry towards Yang Cheng, which is, again, part of Yang Cheng's, like, you know, his embarrassment and his, like, feeling of powerlessness, because he's like, you were right there with my son. You couldn't move fast enough. You couldn't save him. Which is some heavy shit, right? And he's like, why are you still here? And then he's like, if you feel regret in your heart, then go search for the murderer and avenge him. Which I thought, that's a lot to tell a young kid to do. He's like, if you're feeling bad, then just go avenge my son and make it up for me that way. Which I was like, that is okay. That's a grieving father's words in the moment. I'm like, I don't know if we should be encouraging vigilante justice right now, but you do you, sir. I understand where you're coming from. And he's like, instead of standing here waiting for me to forgive you. That part does make sense. He's like, look, I'm a grieving dad. Let me have a moment. If you've come here begging for forgiveness, I don't have time for it. Go avenge my son and then come back. And I mean, I get why he says that, because he's like, you standing around here is just making me mad. And so, of course, one thing that stands out in this episode is throughout the episode, Xia Qing, who has, it's something about her character that I think we should note. She is constantly, and she talks about it in this episode, she is constantly observing from the sidelines. Whether it's watching Yang Cheng perform as Isol on the stage, whether it's watching in the classroom when he shows up late, whether it's talking with the president, whether it's doing this or that, she's always from a suitable distance. She's never like right there with him until like the bike scene. Also, poor Shang Chao is grave in the background there, us forming the literal love triangle. Also, if you look visually, there's that hedge right in front of her in the background is literally separating her and Shang Chao from Yang Cheng. It's literally separating them from him, which is a visual metaphor of what's going to happen in this episode to come. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's when he's like, that's exactly what I intend to do. He's like, I've come here to ask for your help. And in that moment, he's like, okay, you were the kid that my son placed all of his beliefs in, to a degree where I questioned if he had a crush on you. But he's like, my son placed all his beliefs in you, so, okay. All right, what do you want? How do you want my help to avenge my son? I mean, he's clearly down for it. And he's like, the gunner's identity, I could vaguely tell. And so we get this angle as he walks away that he has the scar from where Yang Cheng had grabbed him by the neck. And he's like, that scar was left from me. And at this moment, you can see the gears turning in the dad's head. You can see the president mulling over, like, thinking about things. Now, whether or not the president has figured out what we, the audience, know by the end of this episode, I don't know. But you can see him mulling around in his head what's going on. And he's like, look, I know Yang Cheng. And that's part of Yang Cheng's guilt, is that he knows that the killer was someone that he let go. That adds to it. That adds a weight. He's like, this man that I let go, that I didn't turn in, that I didn't take care of properly, because, again, I didn't have the power and the means to do so at the time, which he's equating as being his own fault, even though we, the audience, know it's a lot more complicated than that. He's like, this man killed him, and it's really my fault. I'm the one that's fostered this chain of events. And it's like, well, to be fair, you've not fostered this entire chain of events. Your uncle's been the one serving the entire chain of events, but okay. But you can see where he's getting that from, right? So then Xia Qing shows up. And damn, let's talk about this entire studio here. Let's talk about this studio. Because I don't think this studio looked like this when Shang Chao was shot. I think that Yang Cheng has been exercising his anger not only in his own room at his own house, which we'll see in 2D later, but he's been like tearing this place apart, trying to figure out what to do. Which shows that he is not in a good mental mindset. Like these rooms are indicative of his mental state and how disheveled and all over the place he is. To be honest, look, I'm a big Star Wars fan. To be honest, we're going to talk about this throughout this because I just kind of thought about it at the very end there when the uncle was standing side by side with Isol, which we're going to talk about because I have some theories. I'm like, I don't know. We're not there yet. But I was getting very Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader vibes because I'm a big Star Wars fan, because you have literally Anakin is unable. It's been a while since the prequels have come out. It's been like 30 years. If you've not watched those movies, then there's going to be some light Star Wars prequel spoilers. I'm assuming you're either going to know them or you won't care. But in the second prequel, Attack of the Clones, Anakin Skywalker, who becomes Darth Vader, spoiler alert, he goes to try to save his mom, and his mom is killed. And so he very much blames himself for his mother's death, that he was not strong enough to save her. He was not fast enough to get there in time. And there were all these little things that held him back. And so he feels this anger and feels this need for revenge. And the thing is, what's the tragic part for Anakin that's also the tragic part for Yang Cheng is that the person or persons he should be directing his anger towards are not who he ends up directing his anger towards. He ends up, instead of Yang Cheng, instead of finding the murderers of Shang Chao, they're already dead. They're already gone. We're going to talk about that. So instead, he directs it towards Isol, and which is maybe not who he should have directed the anger towards in the end, you know? So the same thing happens with Anakin, and it just keeps getting from bad to worse, to the point where you either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And even though Yang Cheng is a hero in that tower, if it's Yang Cheng, we'll talk about it. Even though Isol's the hero in that tower, is Isol a hero? Is he a hero in the end? Why the fudge did he shoot Moon? The whole time this episode was playing, in the back of my head, I was going, why did he shoot Moon? Why did he shoot Moon? Why did he shoot Moon? And I don't want you to tell me. We're going to find out eventually. Maybe end of the season, maybe midway point, maybe next episode. I don't know. But why? But why? I don't know. We're going to have to figure that out. So, but I do love that you get these visual clues of where his mental state is, and it's that this place is whole disheveled. And Jia Qing is like, hey, Uncle Rock had me bring you a drink over. And he's like, thanks, as he's working on all of, finding ways. Like, you can see here, the poor whiteboard coon. Look at poor whiteboard coon. It's okay. I won't treat you like that. I would never treat you like this, like they've treated your cousin in this episode. But, like, the printer's on the ground, the paper's everywhere, all the stuff's disheveled. And on the board there, you can see where he's trying to narrow down the two people that have caused this to occur. The one who killed Xiao Cheng was supposed to be in jail for the kidnapping incident. He's like, so I can't trust anyone. That's the problem. That's the problem. So we find out that the two that were the kidnappers, so the kidnappers were not arrested, conveniently. And then Yang Cheng has decided he cannot trust anyone. In the words of Moulin Rouge, without trust, there is no love. Yep. And that's literally what happens here. Yang Cheng, because he can't trust anyone, there is no love in his heart at this point. And so it's just corrupting him. This concept of revenge is corrupting him. And again, I like Jia Qing is like, hey, can you not even trust me? Like, I thought we were all in this together. And he's like, I've made you and Uncle Rock worry. And she's like, well, yeah. And then his phone rings. There's something really important that I've got to do. And he's like, he's going to enlighten her to try to get some intel about the guys that got out and about the murderers. I feel for Jia Qing because she's literally, like, she gets such a short end of the stick. And we've talked about her character in episodes past of how she maybe should have pushed a little bit, to say what she wanted. But I really feel for her here because she is just suffering. And not only is she suffering, but she's having nobody to comfort her and she feels like, she's like, I've already lost one guy that's really care about. I don't want to lose you too. And, what's sad is that Yang Cheng from last week's episode, I feel like would have been way more empathetic and understanding of where she's coming from and would have been delighted to have these connections with her. But this Yang Cheng is so hell-bent on revenge and also proving his own adequacy that he's ignoring her. And it's really, really tragic. So, yeah. So, he goes to see Enlighter, who's like, do you have any thoughts about the death itself? Do you have any thoughts about his death, please? Or that's the reporter's asking, give us some information. And I guess that's where he's coming out from seeing Enlighter. He's like, I already finished the investigation under his orders. I'm not surprised that that Enlighter was ordered by Mr. Cheng to investigate. I'm not surprised. He was probably like, dig some stuff up. The 2 kidnappers were still in jail, but that was only on paper. So essentially, he goes to talk to Enlighter and is like, what was going on? He's like, well, the justice system wasn't doing its job. They were arrested, but just on paper so that it, placated people. They were actually still running amok, and nobody was doing anything about it. And so then we go into the office here. We're going to go back to critiques at the end of the episode. I'm going to save those. But he goes back to the desk where Wellll is on the table there. There's the portrait of the OG Wellll and all of that, alongside the picture of his parents. He got a trophy for something. What did he get a trophy for? He didn't have a total bad life. He got a trophy for something. But I definitely believe that the concept of Wellll here in this moment is that everything here on this table, even though it's all the OG Wellll, he takes it as a reflection of himself. Like, here's this hero he looked up to, and it's sort of one of those things where I do love that TBHX shows instead of tells in a lot of things. It frustrates me in other areas of the show, but here I like that it's show not tell. So we can assume that when he looks at the figure of Wellll in the light there and he sees all this, he's like, what was I doing? I was trying to play a hero. I was trying to be this guy, and I couldn't even save my friend who was right in front of me in trouble. But then there's another layer to it where he's like, I was only pretending to be the hero that couldn't save his friend because the hero that I looked up to wasn't doing his job. So it adds like all these layers of just why he's frustrated about everything with Wellll in this moment. And I love that transition of 3D to 2D when he comes back home. They themselves have been released during the incarceration, which I would be like, by who? And they're like, has the agent responsible for their case been found? Your question would have been valid a week ago. And so then we find out that the agent that was responsible, I investigated the agent's whereabouts. He hasn't made any moves in a week. So either he's asleep or he's already dead. So basically it's just a cold case at this point. The agent that let them out and, did the bad things is either dead or missing, but probably dead. And so that just adds to Yang Cheng's frustration, where he's like, there are no leads. He's like, we don't know where the 2 guys are, which they're already swimming in the concrete pond. But he's like, we can't find the guys that killed Sheng Chao. The people that released them have already died, so we can't bring them to justice. And it's just back to square one with no hope of getting resolution, which would be enough to make you mad. Would be enough. And so I like in the background it says truth and justice on either side of him. I think that's very clever because on the one hand, it's like you have truth, but you also have justice, and those two may or may not correlate. Because in this episode, I feel like the truth and justice do not correlate. I feel like Yang Cheng is out here trying to get vindicated, have justice, bring someone to be responsible, and pay the price for killing his friend. But then on the other hand, is what he's doing connected to the truth of the matter? Maybe not in the ways that he would like. To go through all this trouble to get those 2 scapegoats out. Those guys must have beef with you. And that's that's the thing that, like, that just is like the cherry on top. It's like everything is going back to Yang Cheng. He's like, which, in hindsight, it should have been obvious that it was the uncle. And now I get, there was a commenter that was saying the dub revealed their voice. And I'm like, if I'd watched the dub of this, I probably would have figured it out because the uncle's voice probably would have been noticeable. But here I didn't notice the voice. So it was surprising. But yeah, all roads did lead back to the uncle. In hindsight, it seems so obvious now. It's like, oh, it's the uncle. But then my thing is, why are you okay with him in the end? But then again, it's the Darth Vader thing. We'll talk about it when we get to it, right? We'll talk about it when we get to it. So Yang Cheng feels responsible. He feels responsible for Shang Chao's death. If he hadn't, associated with those guys, then him and Pomelo wouldn't have been kidnapped. He wouldn't have had that incident. And simultaneously, if he had taken care of those guys back then instead of letting him go, then none of this would have happened. But because he did that entire incident and became viral, that's what got Shang Chao to invest in him. So everything he's done has been part of the reason that Shang Chao is dead, objectively. And so, of course, he'd feel bad. He's like, if they ever get caught again, they'd have a clear motive for this new crime. And then him throwing the e-soul, I feel like it's throwing away, I feel like it's tossing himself, being like, why did this happen? Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you help? Why has it come to this? And then, yeah, I like the idea of just being bisected. That way no one would suspect anyone behind the scenes. And the fact that the body is all smashed up kind of shows, like, how broken that Yang Cheng is inside as he's scratching up the posters and everything. And, like, he's scratching up the posters, tearing it apart. And I love the idea of the lightning coming off of him as he does it. Again, the lightning kind of looks like Force lightning from Star Wars, so it lends to the motif. The person who wants to ruin you repeatedly. What do you have to say about Shang Chao's murderers still being on the loose? And then, of course, in the locker with the uniform, we have the broken mirror, right? Will you continue to be active as the new e-soul? I do love that shot. That shot is great. That might be the thumbnail of him with the broken glass of, are you going to be the new e-soul? Uh-huh. And to an extent, I think that there is a way he's like, well, this all ties back to me wanting to be like e-soul. And I could understand his anger that e-soul has done practically nothing about this and he's still doing nothing in the tower. So he's like, I want to take him on. And, if it's one of those things, he's like, not only is he kind of mad that the old e-soul, everything surrounding him that we've talked about, but Shang Chao wanted him to become the new e-soul. So it's not only him trying to gain power back from this feeling of powerlessness that he's had surrounding Shang Chao's death, but he's kind of also in the same vein saying, well, Shang Chao wanted me to become the new e-soul, so yeah, I'm going to do what my dead friend wanted me to do. I'm going to take over the mantle, I'm going to challenge e-soul, and we're just going to go from there. He's like, that's all I know to do now, because otherwise, how can I bring closure to all of this? So Yang Cheng shows up and he's like, listen, there's this conference here. The title of e-soul has endured for 34 long years. I have also liked him deeply and have fantasized about his maintaining peace and justice in this world. But the truth is that a scale cannot be balanced by relying only on one side. Which goes back to what the president said. He talks about how truth is not about relying on one side. Essentially, he's saying you got to take matters into your own hands. He's like, if you all aren't going to serve justice, then I'm going to have to serve justice, which I'm like, so rather than leaving the weights to others, we should become the weights ourselves. This is like the dark version of Lin Ling, honestly, because Lin Ling's whole thing is everyone can be a hero. He's like, well, anybody can be a hero. Anybody's got that within them. Yeah. And meanwhile, Yang Cheng over here is saying that we need to take justice in our own hands. Which is similar to what Lin Ling said, but not entirely the same. It's a little more assertive take on that. Oh, bitch! Look at him! Look at him! That uncle, he smirked! I saw his little mouth twitched up there. He smirked. We're gonna put the uncle over here. We're gonna put the Uncle Rock. Uncle Rock's gonna go over here. Oh, that smirk, bitch! I've decided on the day of the 34th anniversary that I will challenge the previous E-Soul. So, and then he takes on the helmet, puts on his head, and is like, I'm going to do it. So what's interesting is that the old E-Soul's not interested. The old E-Soul's like, I don't want to face him. No, don't want to do it. And the guy's like, but your rating... I'm going to save it for the critique, but it's interesting that he just doesn't want to fight him. And then we get, he's like, the supporters want you to settle the score with this kid once for all. Also, we get reverse fan service, which is, or like fan service put in. I love it. He's like, well, you need to settle the score. Damn, that back, y'all. That Dorito-shaped bod. As long as you win the match, your trust value will go up by at least 20%. And then with that, you'd be able to work towards getting back into the top 10. So let's talk about the old E-Soul. Let's talk about the old E-Soul, because I don't think we have much with the president after that. The OG E-Soul. So we find out that he's not in the top 10 at this moment, but now he is in the current timeline 5 years later. And then he said, I didn't become for ratings. He's like, I didn't become E-Soul for the ratings. If you didn't, then what are you still doing? Why are you still E-Soul and doing all this? Because he's taking advantage. I'm going to save it. But it's interesting that he still very much utilizes and takes advantage of the privilege that he's been given. He still lives in the tower. He still works out. He still uses all the equipment. He still does the press conferences. He's still taking advantage of the trust values. He's still doing everything within the system. And it's not like a Miss J thing. Like, he has Twinkster Pink McGee over here who's telling him like when his conferences are and what he should probably do as his PR manager. But Miss J is like much more assertive. Miss J is like, you will do this. You will do that. Blah, blah, blah. Whereas this guy's just giving suggestions. So it is fascinating to see him be so passive and to be so like hands off of the situation. I'm like, then what is the point? What are you doing? And he's like, it's not only ranking. And then he looks back and he's like, do you really not see what this means? He's like, do you not see what this means? I ain't ready to cash in my 401k yet. We got to finish this out. So I ain't ready to retire yet. I'm not going to get all my benefits. So we find this one guy. I don't know what his name is. The person commenting is Ricky JL and Seffi. This guy here looks like a TikToker I wouldn't be watching. Although, you know what? He kind of looks like a YouTuber in a way that I've seen on YouTube before. What's his name? He kind of like reminds... I really like this guy's videos. He's very funny. He has a very dry sense of humor, but it's definitely my sense of humor. His videos... what's his name? His name is Mark Insco. Yeah, it's at MarcinSco, Mark Insco. I really like his humor is, he's a lot younger than me, I'm sure, but his humor is really dry and I like it. And this guy kind of looks like the jock version of him. But yeah. So, of course, he's got this like channel that's all about these conspiracy theories and everything. And so they're talking about how his support has decreased by 5% since all this has gone down. When I was watching the reaction, I thought for a second that it went down to 5%. I was like, oh shit, but no, it went down 5%. Also, the conditions that these guys are in, those walls need to be repainted. What's going on? But anyway, so they're like, the new and old E-Soul battle is a popular topic and continues to be discussed. And then they're like, when he brings up Yang Cheng, he's like, don't you agree that this handsome face is friendlier? And I was like, well, now that we're talking about it. But that does bear a good point to what Alexander Q was talking about in the intro. People connect with you more, in a sense, if they can see you and if they can relate to you. And here's the problem, right? I feel like, I coach an event where we are public speaking and it's all about appearance and delivery and how we talk. And it's an unspoken rule. It's not nice. It's not fair. And nobody likes it. But if you have a traditional sense of beauty about you, and that traditional sense of beauty will vary per judge, depending on their culture, their background, everything else. But if you are a aesthetically traditional, well-looking person, you will have a much easier row to hoe than someone who looks disheveled and a mess. Or who the audience cannot connect with because you can't see their face. It is. And it's not fair, but that's just how it is. We're humans. We want to connect with people. And so what he's saying here is that Yang Cheng is a lot easier to connect with. I like it goes to this guy who has the ESOL helmet and armor on, but he has like the school shirt under it. He's like, he's already changed. I'll support the new ESOL. Give me back my money. And I like that you can kind of see the two spirals. What's interesting is that the one is like the one's catching up. And it's like 1 week to go. It's like everyone thinks you're the old ESOL and he's the new ESOL. From just this, it's already very disadvantageous to you. I wish we knew what he was thinking. I wish we knew what he was thinking in this moment. Again, you can't see his face, so it's like you can't tell what he's thinking. And you can't see his expression, like, is he mad about this? Is he happy about this? Is he shocked about this? You don't know. If you don't respond, you're going to become an old man for real. Now, this part's interesting. He's like, it may be a month, a week, or even tomorrow. So we got some new lore in the hero world in this episode that we're going to have to talk about. But one thing is that the trust value can also, we've talked about how it can physically change you. So there is the idea when they talk about him becoming the old man, there is an aspect, because I was like, he's, let's say it's been 34 years and he has this buff body and everything. He does look a little bit, his collarbone is a little more pronounced in this scene, so he looks a little bit less buff than he did prior. But I'm like, so if you, let's say you became ESOL at age 14, then you're at least 48, right? No, because 14 and then plus 30 would be 44. And yeah, you're at least 48 years old. Pretty buff for a 48-year-old, for a near 50-year-old. But I'm like, is the public, maybe the reason he keeps his face covered is because he is aging and he doesn't want to reveal that to the audience, because then they will easily find a replacement. Easily, because he doesn't even take his mask off for his PR guy. And I think that's intentional, because Miss J talked about in episodes 1 and 2, she's like, if Nice dies, we'll just find a new Nice. The public doesn't care. You're a figurehead. You're a hero. They don't care. They don't care if it looks like you've not aged in 30 years. How do they know? They just want a hero. They just want you as a figurehead. They don't actually care about you as a person. And I feel like that's the case with ESOL. The old ESOL has not shown his face because he's aged. And he doesn't want people to see. Because the moment they see, they're going to start judging. And those judgments, he probably knows after being a hero for 34 years, those judgments affect you. And on a physical as well as on a power level as well. So, yeah. What do we do? It could be a month, a week, or even tomorrow. And I mean, you get the idea as he's like breathing. It's like, soon you'll no longer be ESOL. So you got to do something. Meanwhile, we see that Yang Cheng's hands are like bloody. That part where his wrist connects to the glove being bruised and bloody, I was like, I was with Yang Cheng. I'm like, you need to stop. You're going to hurt yourself. Like, you clearly are going to injure yourself. I know I joked about how he got the abs in the final battle, but I really do think if he's been doing this practice for... Now, if he's been doing this practice for a couple weeks only... that you can't get instant abs like that. But if he's been working as the stand-in, the actor and all that, I'll believe that Yang Cheng has got some abs from doing the work and he's been doing the deliveries and all that. But I was just like, damn, okay. So she talks about how Sheng Chao designed this device for Yang Chen. I think it is important with Uncle Rock to talk about a couple things. So Uncle Rock had taken Yang Cheng in as an employee. Now it makes a lot of sense why he wasn't coddling him, treating him like a son. He's been keeping him at arm's length because he's got a side hustle as the man handling an organization. But not only that, I'd have to go back and look, but he kind of encouraged, I mean, he's taken advantage of him becoming the new Wellll, but he did not know, to our knowledge, the extent of Sheng Chao's actions. Because I don't know if the uncle would have approved of having all this equipment and everything, but Jia Qing's like, yeah, no, this is all Shen Chao. He designed this device for Yang Cheng. When applied onto those gloves, and you can see, God, you can see in this moment the wheels in his head turning. You can see it now. It's so obvious. How did I not see it? Surely I was not the only one that was surprised. Surely somebody else was surprised by that twist. The reverse output will produce a punching force twice as strong. And he's like, really? Yeah, but the pillar stays still, unlike people. People can move. How can you guarantee you'll hit him? And of course, he's like, their R&D department is leagues above our own, and their equipment endurance is higher, and it even has a perfect guard. Once it's activated, you won't be able to land a scratch on him. And he's like, I will hit him. I'll hit him no matter what. And then so Yang Cheng, even though the uncle is pointing out some very crucial details, being like, yeah, their R&D department's this, they're this, he's got this to his advantage, all this stuff. Yang Cheng has this resolve that it will hit him. Now, the thing is, what was interesting about the battle is that unlike the Lin Ling battle, where we had him fighting, I'm looking at White Raccoon like it's still up there, but we had Lin Ling versus God's Eye. When that battle was happening, the audience was inputting like words of affirmation and encouragement that was giving him power to be able to fight back. I don't think we saw that in this episode. I don't think we saw that power up. I don't think we saw that. So even though he may have resolve to hit Wellll, unless he has trust value from someone else to back it up, it's not guaranteed it's going to work. So, yeah. And then, yeah, that shot there of the bruises and the stuff on his hand, I'm like, I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. And Jia Qing's like, hey, you should take a break. And he should really listen to her, but he does not. He's like, I've got to be faster than him, and that's how I break his defenses. And he's like, this is the only path left to take. As she's literally standing there being another path to take. But if you notice, there's like the chain link fence in between them. He's literally put a barrier up between her and him now. And she's like, what did I go through the last 2 episodes for you? I should have said yes to Sheng Chao. And he's like, yeah, if it's reverse psychology, I just happen to have an idea. Just happened to. Didn't come up with it. Didn't have it pre-planned or anything. Just happened to have an idea about it. We could have him avoid. Also, his shirt, the orange shirt with the flowers. I literally just talked about this for another series that I watched this morning on the channel. The color orange, if you do color psychology, the color orange is often a color of caution and warning. Should have known. Should have known. If we make him avoid turning on the guard system of his own volition, wouldn't that be better? It's not possible for Yang Cheng. He's like, oh, no need for that. It's like, as long as Wellll uses his signature move, Lightning Slash, all of his defenses will open up. And he's like, well, he won't use that. So we find out that Wellll has this move called Lightning Slash that honestly sounds like, when they said Double Edge, that's a Pokemon move, and I was in Pokemon mode. So, like, Lightning Slash sounds like, not Hyper Beam, because you have to recover, you have to build up to that. You waste a turn building up to Hyper Beam, I think, if I'm remembering right. But there's a Pokemon move where after you use it, you have to recharge. That's what it reminds me of. And my mind's escaping me, but it reminds me of the Lightning Slash. If it's used, then it's going to open the defense up for Yang Cheng to hit him and possibly, but even then, even hitting him, I'm like, would that have been enough to kill him? I was like, would that have been enough to kill him? Because I thought the idea was this is where I kind of got like, whoa. I mean, I think it's worth you beating Isol and taking his place as the new Isol. I totally am on board with that because the old Isol isn't doing anything and he's clearly sold out and is burnt out and all the above. And we don't know why he wants to stay in the tower or even, he's not even in the tower. He's not in the top 10. So it's like, not only is the old Isol not in the top 10, so he's not in the tower. So that's not a reason. But then he's also burnt out and, and kind of has sold out his ideals. So yeah, if you told me that Yang Cheng was going to punch him and beat him up, sure. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Do that. Become the new Isol. But killing him? I was like, is that punch enough to do that? That's why I was like, hold on. That's why we need to go back through this. His strongest move is usually double edge. He knows this better than anyone. Lightning Slash has a huge opening, but its damage is much higher. Ever since that fight, he hasn't used it again. And we don't know what that fight was. So there's something with that fight that we don't know about. What was that fight? I don't know. I like the buff man on the posters over there. But yeah, so there was a fight where he wouldn't use it after that. So, don't know. But yeah. And Jia Cheng is just like, hey, you're getting kind of worked up here. I didn't expect Jia Cheng to become Padme in this. She's like, what if we just stop? And he's not about to do that. No, he's too far gone at this point. She's like, this could be part of their plan to anger you and make you overreach so they can regain their morale. And she's like, I'm becoming more and more afraid. And this was the part that was heartbreaking. One, it's like, is this a plan to get him to overreach and think that he's got an opening when he doesn't and kill him and get him out of the way? But, I'm becoming more and more afraid. When she said that, I thought, dude, if this had been Yang Cheng from last episode, he would have totally stopped what he was doing and tried to talk to her. But not Anakin Skywalker. Nope. She's like, I don't want to lose another friend. Like, that would feel like that'd be enough to get to him. Like, hey, I don't want to lose another friend. Like, hey, me over here, I've lost someone. And he's just not paying attention. And so then he's like, I'm making this suggestion for a reason. I have a way to make him give up defending and use the lightning slash, but you must be confident enough that you'll hit him before it hits you. When he said that, I've got a way, I was like, that's a red flag. That's weird. So, what's the meme? That's suspicious. That's weird. So, he has a way to make him open his defenses, which is going to be, okay, that's going to be the marketing thing that they do at the end there, but we're not there yet. So, I'm like, And he's like I said, I'll hit him. At that point, when he says, I have a way to make it work, he doesn't really go into detail. Uncle Rock doesn't go into details with it. So Yang Cheng does not exactly know that it is, something slightly nefarious and slightly unethical that he's doing. Very unethical. But he doesn't know that. At this point, though, Yang Cheng, this is starting to not become about Shang Chao. This is really starting to become not about Shang Chao, if you've noticed. It's been subtle. It's been very subtle. But at this point, he's like, I'll hit him. And I'm like, why are you hitting him? That is the better question. Why are you doing this? And you slowly start to see as the audience that Yang Cheng started a week ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever to find the murderer of his best friend, one of his best friends. He claimed they weren't friends, but they really were. To find the murderers, to also to find and, avenge and to atone for not being able to save him. It started as that. But as it's gone on, it's been more about him claiming power where he had no power, but it's becoming less and less about doing it for the friend. And I feel like that's commentary on the way that revenge transforms itself as we do it. It starts out for one reason, but it can quickly evolve into something else without us even realizing it. And by the time we realize it, it's too late to do much about it. Yeah, because where was this conviction 2 episodes ago? But I'm also like, maybe this isn't the best, use of that conviction, So then we had the bicycle scene, And right off the bat, I was like, oh man, you know, in any other scenario, she should be like, and obviously the bike has 2 levels, so she can't really, you know, have her arms around his back, and it's not like a bike where she's like on a bigger seat with her arms wrapped around him. But her just riding side saddle like that, it's like, it makes them, again, feel disconnected. And so then we have the Lucky Cyan bus. And then as he goes downhill, he loses control of that moment, which I think is a good metaphor for when he has this like sense of purpose. He's refined, he's focused, and the moment he thinks back on the past and gets her involved with his feelings, he loses control, which is why he kind of cuts her loose. And I was like, damn, really? But that's what he does. He loses control as they go down the hill. They make it to the very end. And for a second, he looks like himself again. He looks like himself again for a brief moment. And so I like that they sit out to the side and kind of have a talk. This is reminding me of a movie that I just got done watching on the channel a few weeks ago called Decision to Leave. You should go on the channel and check it out. That's all I can say. But he starts to get that focus back. And then she talks about how, she's like, you know, I remember you back when you first came to school. You showed up, you're all muddy. You cracked this dad joke about, you know, being down to earth. She's like, but we found out later that you did it because you were saving a cat from the mud. She's like, we found out, it wasn't until later we found out you'd slipped in the mud while trying to save a cat. So she establishes that one thing she kind of fell for was him being selfless and kind of being very humble about it. She's like, you were really humble and selfless and you weren't. And there's a conversation she's making here about, she's like, you did all these things behind the scenes where no one saw. She's like, you were saving that cat, but you didn't claim it. You didn't make a claim of like, look at this heroic thing I did. You just did it. And that was really sweet. And she's like, it kind of endeared you to me. And she's like, and then when I saw you on the stage being the actor, she's like, your face wasn't shown. You weren't taking credit. You were pretending to be somebody else, but you were doing it. She's saying like, you're doing things for other people and you've always done things for others, but you made that choice to do things for others. She's like, you had this selfless choice to help. And now it's become almost an obligation. Like now you're like, I have all these people that rely on me and I have to do this. Whereas before you were doing it because you wanted to. You wanted to help people. You wanted to make a difference. Now you're doing it because it's expected. And I'm like, Also, I'm going to see in this crowd if I see anybody that we know. Is that Wreck in the background? Is that Wreck in the back row in all black next to that little kid? Who knows? But yeah. It's like, who would have thought that that dorky student would be acting as another hero on stage? Again, she has this role as an observer, which is really interesting. The roles were different, but you were still so full of confidence. And that confidence comes from knowing what you are doing and what you're striving for. And I think that she's like, you know, I've been waiting for you to, you know, have that same confidence and asking me out because you're really confident and self-assured about this, but you're not doing these other things. So she's like, does that confidence still exist? She's like, are you sure of yourself? Are you doing this because you want to do it? Because this is what you want to do? Or are you feeling obligated that because of this e-soul role that you have to do it? And that kind of ties to the old e-soul. The old e-soul, it seems like the old e-soul connects like who he is with his identity, like what people, it's one of these things where the people were controlling how Nice was as a hero, which influenced him having this perfectionism, OCD and everything. And it drove Nice to the point where he just couldn't do it anymore. He was like, nope, I'm out. And then you have Lin Ling, which is a whole different thing with the commoner business. But the old e-soul, to me, it seems like he's been this hero for so long. He's grown so accustomed to it. It's become part of who he is, and it's become himself that he doesn't really know how to leave. He can only he can narrow it to where he doesn't do a whole lot, but he doesn't know how to walk away. And now you have Yang Cheng, who is starting to kind of fall into a similar rut that the old e-soul may have fallen into. And he's like, I know what I'm doing. So he claims that he has that same confidence. And she's like, but is this something that you want to do? I think that's the key thing. She's like, are you helping people because you want to, or are you helping people because you feel obligated? And I like his fists are balled there. And he's like, yes. And she's like, okay. You can tell she knows he's uncomfortable and like tense about this. And she's like, look, I'm just trying to, do you remember what I wanted you to promise me? And she's like, I wanted you to be honest with yourself. She's like, are you being honest with yourself? And then as he holds it, he's like, right now, I'm not just me. And he says, I carry the trust of tens of thousands of people. If I run away now, then all of my supporters will have to compromise with crime and evil. So he says that he cannot run away, or he's letting them down. And if I was her, I would feel heartbroken by this statement. Because he's like, and she's like, this isn't running away. And then she leaves. And then she ironically runs away. But no, I would have felt horrible in her position, because she's basically like, hey, you need to be honest to yourself. She's like, you need to take care of yourself. And is this really what you want? And you just said that you can't run away and leave people behind. She's like, but what about me? She's like, what about your friends? What about your family? Like, do you not care about any of them anymore? She's like, why are you doing all this for these nobodies, these no-name people, and leaving behind the people that care about you? I don't blame her for being so upset. I wish that we could have gotten a follow-up to that, but we don't. I wish we could have gotten a follow-up to him chasing after her, but we don't. We do have all the lucky cyan. I keep wanting to say cyan. Lucky cyan. Cyan's the color. Signs for her concert, which finally happens. We also have Ice Blue Fantasy. The English teacher in me hates that fantasy is spelled with a C instead of an S. Hate that. What can we do, though? It's like when restaurants and things like rename things and misspell them on purpose for marketing, and I'm like, ah. So the fight, of course, the ESOL fight is on the same day as the Lucky Cyan concert, right? Of course they're scheduled the exact same day. Why wouldn't they be? Well, you couldn't schedule it a day later? They couldn't have gone to the concert together, really? It's about to become a battlefield. This is interesting. But yeah, Esol's like got his lightning there, ready to fight. And then here comes... What's interesting is that you have the guy that runs the man in the black is the one that runs the company for ESOL. And so he's giving his commentary about it and talking about battle advantage and all of this, which it's just become this spectator scene, right? Is it really? I think that another thing that Yang Cheng is frustrated by is she's like, it's now become this big spectacle. This isn't about avenging Shang Chao anymore. It's about you and your own ego and satiating yourself rather than doing things for your friends and the people that care about you. And Anakin Skywalker, y'all. He just didn't force choke her. But don't forget, in this world, the source of power is trust value. Yep. At this time, new ESOL supporters have already begun to overtake those of old ESOL. So that gives, so the deciding factor for victory in this duel is how supporters respond to each hero's performance. The crazy thing is, I love that transition from 3D to 2D. That was awesome. The thing is, other than what Uncle Rock does, we really don't see a lot of the fans and what their reactions and like input are, unlike the Lin Ling and God's Eye fight. We don't see that as often, you know? So then as he walks in to the arena and these lights, then we have Lucky Cyan starring the concert. She seems very much like a Vocaloid kind of reference because of her outfit. She doesn't have the pigtails like Miku. I don't know a lot about Vocaloid, but I know Miku has the pigtails, and you know the outfit looks similar, but she has that. I felt so bad seeing Yang Cheng just sitting there in the concert by herself. Like how much Yang Cheng has fallen. He went from someone trying to like just, you know, get with this girl to being like obsessed with all of this and himself. To be fair, the fight is amazing. The fight is probably the best visual fight we've had so far. The 2D animation is incredible throughout this. So good. The 2D animation is fantastic. I love the lightning. I love the like energy of this fight. You know, pun intended, but it just looked amazing. But yeah, and so then we had each of them fighting. Yang Cheng looked to be in a lot worse condition than old Isol. Old Isol had like the part of his torso, the costume taken off, and he had like a scratch, but Yang Cheng had a lot of injuries. A lot in him. And then she keeps singing. And then, that's just heartbreaking. And the worst part is there are 2 empty seats next to her. There are 2 empty seats. It wasn't just her and Yang Cheng. There was possibly a seat for Sheng Chao as well. They all 3 could have sat there. It makes me so sad. I hate that for her. Like, I don't know. I thought for a brief second going into this episode, I'm like, they're going to kill her. They're going to kill her character off. And then I was like, no, that'd be too much. That's overkill. We talked about that last episode. That'd be overkill. But then it's like the fact that we may never see her again. Now, I don't know about Pomelo. We might see her in Pomelo again in the future. That would be interesting. But the 2 of them just facing off against one another. And he's trying to lure him out to use that lightning strike ability. The animation was really, really good. I love the animation of this episode. I thought it was so clean and vibrant and energized, and it just looked really good. But I want to get to the uncle. Make sure I don't miss anything important. So yeah, and he even grabs him with the lightning. At this point, he's just toying with him. And I was like, damn, I know that they're superheroes, but still, like, it's like, ooh, that hurts, you know? And he's just toying with him at this point. Damn. There was a part of me that wondered if the old Isol, after his PR manager said that, if the old Isol would maybe try to do like what Wellll did to Nice and assimilate into his body and take it for his own, which is, we're getting closer to talking about that. But he's like, why? All the discussion is calling you for you to use lightning slash. And he's like, why? If you try too hard to avoid it, it will negatively impact your trust value. And so we see all these like pundits, and that would place you at a disadvantage. So it says things aren't looking good for Isol. I've always heard about it, but I've never seen it. Why aren't you using it? Come on, enlighten me. Didn't he say he'd use lightning slash? Didn't he say he'd use it all these years? And he's like, with this, he can no longer avoid using that attack. So the uncle set up all of these fake accounts, or if they're not fake accounts, he started this snowballing. Started the snowballing of asking to have him use the lightning strike. The uncle's interesting. I was like, is the uncle... He set this whole thing up from the very beginning. He basically orchestrated all of this. Now, Isol is the one that is with one of the corporations. Which corporation is he with? He's with... Hold on. My moderator will kill me if I try to look it up. So I'm going to be like, which... Oh, I don't want to go to episode 4. I want to go to episode 5. Which company is he with? Man, looking back at episode 5 and 6, it's so sad. Okay. So, it should have made sense now that those guys were targeted by the uncle. Damn it. I want to go back to where he goes. Okay, here we go. He says, what is the company name that has Isol? Okay, in episode 5, it is shown that the company's name... He's like, I'll confess my true... Damn, like, look. MG. Yeah, Mighty Glory. Welcome to Mighty Glory. Okay, so Mighty Glory was the name of the hero organization for Isol. To find the kid. So, that man, so Uncle Rock is the owner of Mighty Glory. What? We're going to go back to this. Okay, so he set up to have the opening with the lightning slash occur. He's like, just remember you have to win. And then he's like, did everything with my store. He's like, basically sold out to let you win in this. What a genius move to frame to Yang Cheng. He's like, hey, I put a lot of money on you winning this fight. I've had to sell my store. Selling out the store is basically like leaving the shop. Like your drug dealing place is just abandon it. He's like, well, we won't be needing that anymore. Because he knew either one of two things were going to happen. Either Yang Cheng was going to die or he was going to become the new ESOL. But either way, he's the owner of Mighty Glory, the guy running it. So it doesn't matter. That, oh my God. Because I felt bad. I was like, oh no, not selling the store. But then the twist is about to happen, right? And so right there with everything, there he's like, I'm about to go. Yang Cheng looks so good and he's like so badass in this entire scene. But at the same time, he's just like literally a shell of himself. It's just, I think it's interesting that we see his face like coming out of the mask. So like, unlike old ESOL, we can still see like a little fragment of Yang Cheng left. He's not completely gone. And then he goes and tries to attack him. And you can see part of him there. And then ESOL's like, nope. And goes to attack him with the whip. Ugh. All right, I want to get to where all this twist and stuff goes. Because he tries. I do also think it's interesting that his like plate that he has is like a triangle. So that's interesting. But yeah, this fight was a lot. And so then he gets some of those. He catches some of the attacks from the old ESOL. Fights back. He's punching against him. It's not really doing much. And it's kind of just a battle of attrition at this point. Like who's going to outlast who in the long run. But he does expose part of ESOL. He does expose a little bit of him. Not a lot. I mean, he doesn't look totally battered. It's just a little bit. 'Tis a flesh wound. But some of his abilities kind of fall apart there. Meanwhile, Yang Cheng looks like he has been battered and bruised. Like Yang Cheng looks like from the surface, like he's in a much worse position. So then, this is the thing. Like everybody's like, oh wow, his suit looks really cool. But that's the thing. Unlike the Lin Ling and God's Eye fight where people were like, hey, you can do it, and like giving him encouragement and shouts of affirmations and actions that he should do, they're just kind of commenting on how cool he looks and how much they'd like to buy his merch. And you're seeing like the trust values go up and down. And he's like, you can't keep staying on the defensive. The PR guy's like, the supporters are swaying. You'll lose if it goes on this way. I also, damn, they just drew Yang Cheng looking as caked up and like as buff as they could, didn't they? I'm just saying. So then he uses the lightning strike, the lightning slash, which, I mean, it's a pretty bitchin' move. The idea of having this lightning come down, it's like a cannon. It's pretty amazing. I'm like, yeah, that looks like it would cause some damage. But then you see Yang Cheng, both eyes exposed now. He almost looks like bestial in that form. And then it starts to rain, which I'm like, in my mind, I would think the rain would make a bigger conductor for the lightning getting hit, but we'll see. I'm also like, from him using the strike, I'm still curious of if Yang Cheng didn't die, because that thing's like a one-hit KO. You're probably going to die if he uses it. That's why ESOL did not want to do it, because it could kill you. He's like, I don't want to do that. But if he, didn't die or whatever, was Yang Cheng's punches enough to kill him? I mean, I guess they could be. I guess. He did punch and leave a scar. He did grab and leave a scar on that one guy. But would this be enough to kill him? Honestly? And that damn abs. But yeah, but I'm also like, in that regard, if it is in fact Yang Cheng, the ESOL formerly known as Yang Cheng, that won this battle, then he essentially, the big question mark is, of course, who lived. We'll talk about it, because you may be like, well, the new ESOL lived. I'm like, But it's questions. We got to ask questions with this series, always. But if the old ESOL died, then that is kind of the nail in the coffin of Yang Cheng's character, that he literally killed the man that saved his life when his parents died around him. Literally saved his life, and he killed him. And at that point, it's like the Yang Cheng who is trying to be a hero, trying to do this, is he really a hero at this point? The crowd does not seem to have a reaction to one of them dying. You know, they were just like, I thought that they were just going to beat one and it would be like Firm Man. They just go into retirement and leave, not death. What? But apparently. And so as he's like gearing up with this punch, with his fist, as you know, and everybody's waiting to see what the end duel is going to be, he goes towards... I do like the fact that he's using the gear that Shang Chao gave him. And he like gears up and sonic booms towards him. And he goes to strike him with the lightning slash. I wish we could have seen if he actually did hit him or not. I mean, we're going to look at it. We're going to see if we can find it. We're going to see if we can find out. I can make it this time. And the thing that's so heartbreaking is that on the one hand, he's comparing this to not being able to make it to save Shang Chao. And on the one hand, you want him to make it because you want him to prove that it's not like the last time, that it's not where he couldn't make it. He's tying this back to his sense of self-worth, his sense of power, his sense of like being someone that is capable, his idea of being a hero, everything about his identity. And so you want to have him make it. But then on the other hand, it's like, if he does make it, then he potentially is killing someone. And there's that. So he's like, this time I can make it. And it sucks seeing this like in 2D where he notices at the moment and he like tries to fire up to go. And then she's calling out his name. And the worst part, and then when she sees him and her, it's like, yesterday Shang Chao confessed to me. And there is a part that you wonder, because his face is scribbled out here for a second. There is a part that makes you wonder, did he... I don't think he did, but this flashback makes you wonder, did he hesitate for a moment? Did he hesitate for a moment because he knew that he was a rival for Jia Qing's affections? There is a moment where you wonder if he hesitated. Only in that brief time... He's like, this is a VIP seat I prepared especially for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so there's a moment where you're like, did he have this animosity towards this man and let him die and didn't make it in time, but then realized after the fact what a terrible and horrible thing that was and suddenly felt all of this guilt for everything that he'd done? Yeah, you gotta wonder it for a hot second. And he's like, I won't hesitate anymore. Or maybe the squiggles are just because he's dead. Maybe that's why. And then, yeah, this is, so horrible. We're going to talk about the killer shooting Shang Chao in this moment. So meanwhile, the concert's going on. And then when it cuts, like, she's crying because everything's fallen apart for her. Yang Cheng is not going to be there for her. Shang Chao is dead. She's just left all alone. I feel heartbroken for her. She deserved better. She's thinking about him dying. And it's all this whole Wellll thing's fault. And he had the glove on. So he gears up to punch this man with everything he's got as she's singing in the moment. I want to try to catch it. And then like the three seats. Oh, roll credits. Oh, I've been wondering, I was going to question at the end of this, like, why is this episode called Three Seats? Because you have one actor, Yang Cheng, you have two Wellls, old and new, and three seats. And the three seats are for Yang Cheng, Shang Chao, and Jia Qing, and now they're empty because everything's fallen apart for all of them, or they're dead. Roll credits. Well, that sucks. I'll just make the thumbnail the three seats. That sucks. And yeah, like she's gone. Like she's just given up and is so disillusioned. I hate it. And then the whole stuff with Wellll and Yang Cheng's hero is gone in this moment. And there's the damn lucky cyan tickets that he left on the floor that he worked with his own money to get. And then I want to see, did he get him? Did he get him or not? I just can't imagine this punch killing Wellll. I can't imagine the punch killing him. But I don't know. Maybe hero logic in this world, is left up to think. Okay, so there's him in the moment, He's struck down, but we don't see, like, we see him in that moment. Did he strike? Did the punch neutralize it? What ended up happening? It all goes down. We don't see. That's the thing. You don't see immediately at first, which it seems like the punch hits the lightning and they both explode at the same time. So who actually lives, right? We're going to go through this. And then we flash back where Yang Cheng's asking the uncle. This is such a great transition. Why is the special love seat so powerful? And he's like, oh, no. It's not magic or anything. It's just the view and the lighting is the best. So it's obviously the best spot for the confession. So the uncle is like, look, he's like, it's not, there's no magic. It's all intent. Intent and optimization. He's like, I optimized the prime spot and I knew the intent and I knew how to manipulate it to where it would get people. And he's like, I knew the right story to tell. I just set the table. He's like, I just went to the right space at the right time and set it all up. And that damn cut! Ugh! It's him! Damn it! I can't believe he's like, people are interesting creatures. You can say it doesn't influence anything. But once you set the game rules, I love he pushing the meat into the piranha tank. Damn it. Once you set the rules, things will fall into place. I cannot believe that it was him. He's like, let's not bother with the guy with zero trust. So, okay, let's run through this. So, he had said, let's not bother with the guy with zero trust. So, he knew probably that was Yang Cheng, right? He knew that was him. So, if we go the route of saying he set this all up from the beginning to get Yang Cheng into... Here's my thing. Why? I guess my question is, what was wrong with the old E-Soul? Like, the old E-Soul had... I mean, I'm trying to figure out one of two scenarios. If you had option A and option B. And I know some of these will seem obvious, but please work with me and humor me on this. So option A is that he wants Yang Cheng to be E-Soul. He's seen this kid. He sees he has potential. He's young and hip. He's getting him money. He's like, oh, the kid has potential. Maybe he's noticed that E-Soul right now is burnout but won't leave. Because Uncle Rock seems like an opportunist and he wants to make money and he wants to be the best at what he's doing. And if the old E-Soul was just kind of going through the motions but was refusing to leave, he's like, fine, then I'll take matters into my own hands. And maybe when he saw Yang Cheng, he's like, I could set up this kid to become the new E-Soul. My question is, if that's the case and he's wanting him to become the new E-Soul, then why didn't he just why didn't he approve Yang Cheng to be one of the people that was chosen for the event? Because Sheng Chao would have supported it. He was like, have encouraged it. And in the end, that would have led him to be part of his organization, possibly, and he could have cultivated it from there. Which leads me to point B, where he noticed Yang Cheng's potential, but he was like, nah, I don't want that to be... I want Yang Cheng to just work for my bubble tea store. But the bubble tea store, he was so eager and willing to abandon. It's like, well, then what? So he noticed his potential and maybe was like, he discouraged him getting into the event and was like, no, I don't want you to be in that event. So then, but then he smiles, which makes me think, again, he set all this up. Because then he called the guys, I have a big order, do you want to take it? He knew Pomelo, so he ordered them to kidnap him, which created... Okay, that goes more with line A. So he knew Pomelo's kidnapping. He knew that it could be monetized and get press coverage. But that's like such a psychological thing. Like that is making a lot of assumptions. That's him assuming that Yang Cheng would have been down and out on his luck, but would have been resolved to go rescue Pomelo and thus fought the guy. That is making some grand assumptions in that plan, you know? And then when he says, if you want your brother to live, finish off that fake. And he's like, where is he? Please let me see him first. So here's the thing. Then when he says, finish the fake, here's the thing. That is the one thing, if this was all intentional to get Yang Cheng on your side, to manipulate him, why did you tell the guy to go kill that fake if you didn't want Yang Cheng to die? Because if he had told him in that moment, if he had said, go kill Shang Chao, go kill the guy in the warehouse, when you open up the door, you'll see a man with dark hair wearing a yellow cardigan, shoot him. Because this guy here knew what Yang Cheng looked like because he fought him, right? Because he fought him as he saw his face through the E-Soul costume, so he knew who he was. So I'm like, if he said go kill that fake, he intended for him to kill Yang Cheng, and then it didn't work out. So again, I feel like he's trying to just get rid of Yang Cheng, but then realizes that that's not working for him, so he's like, fine. Because then he gets rid of these guys by dipping them into straight cement, and I was like, damn, that's brutal. He just dumped them into cement alive. Alive. Those guys drowned in cement and died. That was a sucky death. That was not a fun time. Nope. And then, oh my God, then cutting from them in the cement to the destroyed arena. So yeah. So I want to look at this really closely to see what color lightning is. If we see what color lightning it is, it's going to tell us, you know, oh, that is old E-Soul's lightning. That's old E-Soul's lightning. Yeah, it is. Yep. That is old E-Soul's lightning. And him with the arm missing. Yeah. But here's the thing. Oh, it's not cyan. It's not cyan. It isn't cyan like our new guy was. But here's the thing. Here's what... but the thing is, because the body that comes out of the rubble, that lightning is... Here's the problem with it. It's not cyan. It's not the teal like what Yang Cheng's is, but it's also not quite purple like the old E-Soul's was. It's like a mix because they've mixed now. But then you have like the arm is missing, so it's like so you don't know if this is the old or the new, or if they've merged the lore. Oh damn. It says, breaking news, the commission has just announced there has been a merging of E-Soul's trust values. That means that one of the two has already perished. And Uncle Rock looks a little bit more somber in that, because I think he was like, oh, I didn't expect him to die necessarily. Old Darth Sidious over here. This is actually Darth Sidious. And then they're cleaning out a spot for him to come up and be one of the top heroes as he's looking out the window. And in the new suit. Now, here's the thing. They very conveniently don't show us his face. And the worst part is we never saw old E-Soul's face. So we don't know. So there is a chance that that is, in fact, Yang Cheng. But I don't know. I think... Here's what I think. I think, as of right now, based on what we've just seen... I think that since the arm was amputated and everything, that Yang Cheng could have lost his arm. He could have lost his arm, and what poetic thing, like the old E-Soul, very Anakin Skywalker of him, could have done that. However, they did make mention of the old E-Soul growing old and needing a new body. And I can't imagine Yang Cheng looking at Uncle Rock and being like, but wait, you mean to tell me it was you all along that orchestrated this? I mean, the difference between Darth Vader and Yang Cheng in this situation is that in Star Wars, Anakin Skywalker went to Darth Sidious when he was posing as Palpatine, and he was like, he went to Palpatine, found out Palpatine was a bad guy, and then eventually like joined forces with him because he realized, he's like, you'll help me get what I want, so I'm joining forces with you. I think it's a little bold to compare Yang Cheng completely to Darth Vader because there are differences between them, major differences. So a one-on-one comparison is not going to work. So, but I mean, if you can see the Palpatine and Vader similarities, visually it's there. And it's almost like, because the old ESOL was not in the top 10, this has skyrocketed him to the top 10. That's what Uncle Rock wanted to begin with. He wanted the seat in the tower. And they're like, when that store close? It looks like it's been a while. The worst part is Jia Qing didn't go back. Or if she did, we didn't see her reaction to this. But yeah, and then he's on the top level, right? Or no, this is floor 9, right? That's a 9 up there, so he's on floor 9. The 9th hero. I mean, body-wise, that looks like Yang Cheng. But he's like, the view certainly looks different from higher up. But also, I want to see them side by side. I mean, yeah, sure. That looks like Yang Cheng. Looks like his body type next to him. But did he lose his arm? Did he lose his arm? Did he merge with the old ESOL? Why isn't he showing his face? Is it just because it's symbolically like now you'll not see his face because he's ashamed because of what he did to get to this position? Ooh, buddy. And then when you go out from oh no, damn it. Sorry. When you go out from the tower and you start to pan out from there, he's like, the view is good from the top, isn't it? Like everything he sacrificed to get there, like seriously. And you see him, so there's like 1, 2, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's on the 9th floor. Not at the top floor because the tower's upside down. And that's that. And that's that. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking, as you know. Of course it is. No. Okay, so my only critiques of the episode, I really love let's get into that. I really love the twist of it being the uncle being the conspirator of it all. Love that. That was amazing. That was an amazing twist. I am 100% here for that. That was fun. Jia Qing, I wish I could have seen her and Pomelo in this episode or get more resolution with her, but it's not a critique because I'm sure they're going to show up later. I mean, we left on a cliffhanger. There's the big question of why kill Moon? Why do that? Or is ESOL just a puppet for the commission now? But then it's like, the president of the commission has had no solace or justice for his son. So that's crazy. In 5 years, there's been nothing for that. And this has been 5 years since ESOL made it to the tower. It does establish that ESOL is not the sweet Yang Cheng that we knew. So there's that. He's no Lin Ling. He is no Lin Ling. I guess my main critique, and I've kind of mellowed down from it from the start of the episode, is I just wish we had longer to see the change in Yang Cheng happen more subtly, because it happens very quickly here. And I get at the beginning of the episode why it happens so quick, because he's been on revenge, and they do a good job overall. It's not really a nitpick, it's not a complaint, it's just personally, because I like character development and character work, some of Yang Cheng's like actions feel like they just happened, and I would like to have seen a little more development, but at the same time, I know that we don't have time because we have other stories to tell. So, I don't know. My thing is that with this format of introducing all of these heroes, we've set up with Lin Ling that we have to have a tournament at the end of this. We're only on episode 7. We have 24 episodes. So I'm like, are we going to go into the tournament now and set up like Moon's whole thing and all that? Or are we going to set up more heroes that are going to be important in the tournament? Possibly. I don't know. I feel like there's so many questions now that I have about ESOL, and I don't know if those are going to be answered anytime soon. I mean, like I said, I don't really have a lot of critiques for this episode. Some of it, I wish that we'd had more time to build it up. But now that I've looked at the discussion, I don't feel so critical of it, I guess. It was a really good episode. It was a really good episode. Is it my favorite? No. But, of the series, no. But I think it's still good. It just sucks. It sucks to see Yang Cheng turn, not even to the dark side. He's not a villain. That's the thing, too. The whole, Spotlight organization, we haven't touched them in 3 episodes. Who are they? Like, we have no clue about the Spotlight organizations, about the villains. What about Magic Shadow? Where did he come from? Like, what? Lots of questions. Lots of questions. But guess what? I've talked for almost an hour and 38 minutes. So, anyway, if you're still here, hi, thank you. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. Lots of thoughts for next week or whenever we see episode 8. But in the meantime, check out my April 2026 update video. It'll have when I'm watching the next episodes of TBHX in April. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care. And yeah, I will be back soon with more on TBHX. 8's my lucky number, so wish me luck for that. Bye.